Okay, for those of you that wanted the video of how to do the new videos on white for Shopify, this is my super budget primer. The first thing that you want is a white background. So it's a vinyl backdrop, which I like. You can get different backdrops. You can get like a paper backdrop. I like the vinyl. Let's see, it's just a little bit thicker. And then at the bottom, it's hard to see, but it curves really nice on the floor. So I usually pay a little bit more for the vinyl. I think this is like a 10-foot by 9-foot vinyl. It goes all the way up to my ceiling here in the loft, and then it kind of makes the swoop on the floor. That helps you from having the line between where the wall meets the floor. If you're just doing tops, you don't really need it to go that far down, because you'll crop your video so nobody will see the feet. If you don't want your feet in the video, which if you sell jeans or you want full outfits, what I have done, because I don't have the long enough backdrop there, mine's really dirty, but you'll see that doesn't matter in the video. I just bought this piece here. It's like I don't know, probably 1.5 yards square that I got from our fabric store. It's just like marine vinyl. It wasn't very expensive, so I used that to kind of come out farther. So these are our model's feet, so that she's all on white, and then there's a little bit in front of her. So that is the background setup. You want to make sure that your white goes above where the top of your model's head is, and if you're doing feet, you want it to come out in front of their feet far enough that you've got a little bit of room to crop there. As for the lighting, I'll have that kind of all detailed out in this post as well. And this used to be our sample area, so we have a lot of mess up here. But here's the first light that we've got with the barn doors. This one doesn't have the kind of like white screen in front of it, which is called the light box, but it's just an LED light. I turned it off so I can show the front of it to you. And what you want to do, I'll try to do a diagram so you can see kind of a top-down view. Ooh, trying to turn that back on with one hand is hard. So you can see a top view. But these are probably 3 feet in front of my backdrop. So you want those 2 lights, the backdrop lights, at kind of 45-degree angles, pointing like at the center of the backdrop. So you want it about where the model's chest is, pointing toward the center of the backdrop. So point both of them toward the center of the backdrop on high power. And then you've got these other lights, which I'm also putting in the description. And these do have the big softbox on them. And those you want in front of the model. So here's the model's feet. You want it about 3 to 4 feet out in front of the model. And again, at 45-degree angle, pointing to the front of your model. Now, as you can see on I've got an iPad Pro, and it's actually doing a pretty good job. I mean, I'm kind of shaky here because I'm trying to walk around. But if I tap the different, it did some really good, it was showing you how white it was going to be. I do all of my editing on my DSLR camera, but you probably could do the editing on your iPad Pro as well if you have one. I'm going to try to pull this out and see if I can show you my camera, which this could be a little tricky with one hand. So it's a little hard. So I use a Nikon D500. It's super fancy. You don't need this fancy of a DSLR camera to do this. So when you turn your camera on, what you want to do is you want to go to your live view down here, and that will show you, it's really hard showing you when I'm not on the camera, but the front dial on the camera, what I'm doing right there, that is going to adjust it's your f-stop basically, but it's just basically adding brightness or subtracting brightness. So what we always say is you want to get it, this is really hard with 2 hands, you want to get it like pretty close in camera. Don't get it too bright. I'd always rather have it a little bit darker than brighter, but once you have that, then you just start recording, and then we'll go into the post editing after that. But that's how you get your model kind of set up so that your background can be done on all white. Again, when you've got all your lights on, this should be as evenly lit as possible. You don't want any parts of your model where they're way too bright. Let me see if I can show you. Like if you turn your lights up really high and get them too close, you will get spots that are, as we call it in photography, blown out. You don't want to do that. It's hard in editing to take care of that. So get everything as right as you can in camera, and then we'll go from here to what I do in editing. Okay, we are on my screen now, and I am going to File, Import, and choosing my video file. and you'll see it drop down there below in the lower left. I think we're on the editing pane here is what we typically do, and you'll see kind of these layers over here, V1, V2, V3, A1. Obviously the A's are audio and the V's are video, and you want to grab your video from earlier and drag it into video 2. I found out that's kind of important. Basically what we're doing is we're making a layer sandwich here of the different layers that will help us achieve this all white background. So you drag and drop it there. I usually go into the audio. You can see which one kind of has the audio on it. It's usually, if you drop it into V2, it's A2. And I hit that little M there to mute it because I don't like hearing background noise in my videos. So you've got your video in there, and you can see if you press play, you'll see you're moving around. My screen is lagging a little bit throughout this whole video. I think it's because I'm screen recording and I've got a lot of programs opening, so I'm sorry about that. In the left, you want to go down and click on the little page icon and create a new color mat. It'll come up with a color screen, and I always do that all the way white and then hit OK, and it'll ask you for a name. You can name it whatever you want, color mat, white mat, and just hit OK. And that'll show up kind of in your project space here next to your video that you added earlier. So you're going to drag that, and what you're going to be doing is making a layer on top of your video layer and a layer behind your video layer. And obviously the layer behind it is going to be your full white background to cover up any edge space, and the layer on top will cover up any white space on the outside of your model. But we do need to kind of cut out on that layer where our model is in our background. So I've got Brandy here. She's crooked. So it'll probably be that way if you upload the same resolution as we have. So you want to go into, when you're in your editing pane, you go into your video, and there should be a rotate in there. Make sure that you're clicked on your actual video here, but she is negative 90 degrees. You rotate her negative 90 degrees, and there she is, upright. And then let's see here. We've got kind of this white space on the side. I like everything made square. You probably do too. So you go to sequence and sequence settings. You'll need to have that set to cinema. It doesn't, sometimes it's grayed out down here if you don't set it to cinema. So set it to cinema, and then right down here, make sure that it is equal dimensions. So mine's 10 at 80 just to make it that square. Yep, it's going to change some stuff. That's okay. And now here we are. Everything's square. If you're just doing tops, it doesn't really matter if your model's feet are cut off. If you want to see your full model, if you're selling jeans or shoes, or you just want to kind of show the whole outfit, you can go into that scale and you can scale it down until you get your whole model in the picture. And then in position, if you click on position, it will allow you to drag and drop that video into wherever you want it in that space. So I just kind of center her there. And you can play and just make sure no parts of her head get cut off when she turns or anything. Again, she's a little bit lagging, but you get the idea there. So now, the next part that we go to. All right then, the next part that we get to here is we want to, turning those layers back on, we want to get to the point of where we're cutting them out. So you want to go into your sidebar on the right there and search for track matte key. And then go in and make sure you're clicked on your video and double click that track matte key. What that does is give you on the right hand side, or the left hand side, sorry, you'll get a pen where you can go all the way around your model here, make it pretty big, do inverted and reverse after you do that pen, and then apply it to video 3. So what you're doing is you're cutting out around your model, and then you're saying, I want this cutout to be in the video, but apply it to that top layer that we put on there. So as you can see, we've cut out around, and that top layer is cut out and everything's pretty white. There's a weird kind of section on the bottom there that you can see. Why that's happening is because our color mat isn't quite lining up. So if you click on that top color mat, you can go into, on the left hand side there, you can go into that color mat and then into the scale and scale that up to like 200%. You can see if you kind of turn all these off, you can see that the color mat isn't quite going all the way around that. So if you go up here, make that, I don't know, 200% or whatever, now you can see, okay, there's just our cutout of our model, and that should be great. When we turn those other layers back on, now you can see our cutout is all the way around our model, and when she turns, there's nothing getting cut off, and we should be pretty good to go from there. So I'll play this again, it's super choppy. but you can get the idea that it's white around there. And there are some things within that color mat, or within that track mat. I think I kind of skimmed over it a little bit, but the opacity, keep it on 100%, but there's a feathering on there, and I like to feather it about 10%, because then you just kind of get that edge. To slow it down a little bit, if you go into the video on the lower part and right click on it, scroll almost to the bottom, and then you get like a speed thing. I found 85% is really what I like the most for that. So do 85%. That'll lengthen your video a little bit. So you want to go back in here and take those color mats and extend them to the end of your video. And now if you play it, those cutouts won't cut off before the end of your video, which is nice. The slowing it down just gives it a little touch of, I don't know, it just makes it feel a little bit more professional to me. Not that I'm super professional over here, but we do our best. So now you can see your video goes all the way around. At this point, that's pretty much all you need to do. So you can do file export and export this in the queue. I kind of go through that in the video, and then while I'm talking, I kind of want to go through, if you import your video in and your white, the white of the model doesn't actually match the white of the background, what you want to do is on the left hand side there's something called Lumetri Color, and if you click on that, it'll bring down a menu, and there you can adjust kind of the feel of your video. You can pick the white balance of it, you can set your exposure up or down. I like to usually set my exposure almost all the way up until the white is just about white, and then if you click on the white, you can make the white even whiter. I usually bump up the blacks, so take the black slider and slide it to the left a little bit. You can play with all those controls, kind of the color and stuff. I think you guys have probably done a little bit of that with Lightroom, but that'll let you edit it to get as white as possible. And that's pretty much all I know. So if you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer them the best I can. Just post them in the comments below and we'll go from there. Thanks so much.